From the St. Francis Yacht Club in San Francisco, this is the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon, hosted by Ron Young.
Welcome to the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon. It's fun to be back in the grill room, and the first order of business is to invite our Commodore up. Come on up, Commodore Bo Rolick.
Thank you, Ron. I would like to welcome you all. It's quite a treat to get back here in this room where we've spent so many wasted Wednesday afternoons. It's a real treat, and with that, Ron, I think we need to get going.
Thanks, buddy. Great. So out the window, we see three big ocean racing trimarans, one of which I rode up to 37 knots in. Imagine 37 knots going that way. These are incredibly fast rides, and they're part of the story that our speaker today will tell us about. Now, he didn't start racing on Mod 70s, trimarans that can go, 40 and 50 knots. But he did start racing on boats where you learn faster. That is to say, lasers and sunfish. And then he grew up in high school and college sailing, and then went on to race in the Newport to Bermuda race multiple times, and the SORC multiple times. And during his career, kept hankering around for a big boat. Finally, after moving to the West Coast in 1991, he bought a beautiful Santa Cruz 52 and started racing Lucky Duck. And I had the great privilege of racing with him down the coast in this series, and I guess it'd be 2013. And I can tell you, Dave is a really good sailor. And he has gone on to win this series in 2018, when I wasn't on board, and I'm not sure what the correlation is. And then he went on to race it in multiple other races, including the Transpac, and has had more than his share of podium finishes. And so now he's got another newer, hotter hot rod, a Rogers 46, also called Lucky Duck. And that he is because he's married to the beautiful Jennifer MacEwen, Smile Jennifer, and that makes him for sure a lucky duck. Welcome up our speaker, Dave MacEwen. Dave.
Thank you, Ron. Nice to be here with you all today. It's great to see so many friends and some crewmates in the group here. So it's wonderful to be here and tell the story about the California Offshore Race Week. This is a picture of us finishing Transpac 2 years ago. Helicopter picture by Sharon Green. Some of you might recognize Brendan Bradley on board there too. So good times, great. I love this shot because it's just got that water shooting off the front of the boat, really cool. So our topic today is California Offshore Race Week. But before we jump into that, I want to introduce Felix Whitelake. Felix Whitelake is our new race director at St. Francis Yacht Club. Felix is really charged with taking the St. Francis race program to new levels, and he's well on his way to doing that. He's being joined here in the United States tomorrow by his wife and son. And so some of you might have seen his stepson Cedric walking around, and so it's great. It's super great to have him. We're so excited to have Felix here. So welcome up to the stage, my friend and our new race director, Felix Whitelake.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Ron, for welcoming me here and giving me the chance to introduce myself to you, to the members of St. Francis Yacht Club, and to the person on screen. As you can see, I'm not a professional sailor, but I'm a good sailor and did a lot of racing from dinghies to big boats and to league sailing. I started as a kid with sailing, grew up in Kiel, Germany. Therefore, also my funny accent. And I've got some races down in my career. So the first picture you see is the International 14 World Championship 2009 in Australia, Sydney. The other picture is the transatlantic race from Newport, Rhode Island to Hamburg in 2007. And this other smaller picture is a league sailing event 4 years ago. And I also did some America's Cup sailing for the German team in Valencia, Act 4, number 5. In 2009, I changed my position from the active sailor to the other side of the desk as a race management person, and stepped into the Kiel Yacht Club. We're running many races, also the Kiel Week race, which is the largest sailing festival in the world. Running 9 days, 10 race courses at the same time. We have around 2,000 boats and running 450 volunteers. And we put some championships inside this event, but also beside our standards events, we have multiply World Championship, European Championship, and of course Continental Championships. So this was my job for the last 10 years. Then I stepped back to my real estate business for the last 4 years. And then from our member, Doug Sloan, I received the invitation to apply for this job on Bo's desk. And we start running the procedure to get me in here. So I'm here now since March. And I'm really looking forward to running the race office as a race director. We have a good team of volunteers. We've got very good leadership from the ERC. Lawson, Susan, and Dave are awesome, and they are bringing us, me and my assistants, very good into speed, or up to speed. And all the events I have already seen are perfect, and I'm really looking forward to bring my experience from my European point of view up to here, and yeah, it will be a long-term employment. So really looking forward. If you've got any questions?
How many races will you manage this year?
Now this year? How many weekends do we have already? I think it's the same amount. I think it's only one weekend we're not running races. And I could say it was Dave on the boat, so this was nice. All right, okay, good.
Thank you.
Back to Dave.
Thank you, Felix. We're super excited to have Felix here and the future of racing at St. Francis Yacht Club. So today we're here to talk about the California Offshore Race Week. The California Offshore Race Week has been in existence since 2016 in its current form. Originally conceived as a combination of 3 historic races that have been run on the California coast for some 25 years or more. And that's the Spinnaker Cup, and we're going to get into all these in much more detail. Spinnaker Cup, Coastal Cup, and then the SoCal 300. And it kind of stretches between here and San Diego. So today we're going to talk about kind of each leg of those, and we'll kind of cover a little bit about what's happened kind of historically. We'll get some videos, and then we'll talk about how it looks for this year. Give you a little projection of how it looks going forward. For the first year, St. Francis Yacht Club is one of the organizing authorities of this race, and we're super excited about that. We're joining Encinal Yacht Club in that endeavor, and there's 5 different yacht clubs involved with this. Last year it was 4, and so we're super excited to have St. Francis here. And you'll see, you know, the boats, the Mod 70s that we're sailing around out here. We've got Catapult, the Santa Cruz 70 on the dock out there today. A lot of that's happening because we are now one of the organizing authorities. So super excited to be part of that. So as I mentioned, the California Offshore Race Week is a combination of these 3 races historically: Spinnaker Cup, Coastal Cup, and the SoCal 300. 5 great yacht clubs involved with 5 fantastic parties. Each yacht club has a party, and they're all great. So first one will be tomorrow night over at Encinal Yacht Club for the skippers meeting, and then Friday night there's actually a party here. So any of you want to drop by for that, we'll be in the starting line room at 5 o'clock, which starts with essentially a weather briefing and kind of a routing by Quantum Sales, one of our sponsors. But a couple of years ago, some of the bigger, faster boats said, "Hey, we don't want to stop along the way. We just want to go all the way from here to San Diego in one big swoop." And so we said, "Great!" So we invented the California 500, which is 500 miles starting here and ending up in San Diego. And for this, there's 2 organizing authorities: us and San Diego Yacht Club. That's the Mod 70s that are going to be out there. There's 3 of them sailing around out there today. Only 2 of them are going all the way to San Diego, but their course starts here, goes out around the Farallones, all the way down like to Southern California around a weather buoy into San Diego, and they'll do the whole thing in just like a little over a day. So it's super incredible. And I'll show you a video of what these boats are like. It is really fabulous, and I know Ron mentioned he sailed on them. Some of my other crew members have as well too. But they are absolute massive machines, and we're gonna take a look at what that looks like. I don't know why we're not getting any volume here. Sorry, just gonna have to look at it. But,
Can you hit the button, the sound button, Dave?
any tech help here? Like, it had been working.
12-year-old?
Yeah. Should be working. Well, anyway, this is what it looks like. The sound makes it even more exciting. But they're flying along. They're 70 feet long by about 70 feet wide. They have foils, not full lifting foils, but kind of get them up out of the water and reduce drag in the water. This is a boat called Argo. It's an East Coast boat that's out here, one of the boats sailing around today. But, you know, they're amazing machines. They sound really great too. You guys have to take my word for it. But this is Argo going out the gate, and essentially that's the last we're going to see of them because they are gone. They go down to San Diego. By the time we get down to San Diego with the rest of the fleet, these guys have already gone home. So they are done super fast, super exciting. We're going to have a look at what it looks like for them going down the coast this year, and it's fairly light conditions really. But if you're around tomorrow or Friday, they're going to be doing actual racing. Today they're just kind of tooling around out there, getting warmed up. Tomorrow they do actual racing, and then on Friday they race, and then on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. they're going to start right here off our starting line. About a half hour before the Spinnaker Cup starts. So part of our job is to keep all those Spinnaker boats out of the way of the Mod 70 so they don't get impaled by a Mod 70 going 35 knots. Because as incredible as those things are, they're fairly unwieldy and they're not very maneuverable. So you don't want to find yourself in the way of a Mod 70 going 30 knots. This is the fleet Argo, Orion, and Snowflake. Snowflake is owned by Frank Slootman, who owns a company called Snowflake. So he's a local guy. The other two, well, I'm not sure where Orion guys, I think, are some North Bay guys actually too. And Argo's the East Coast guys. This is what it looks like, kind of a weather overview, and just kind of explain the chart here a little bit. Anything that's blue means it's light air, kind of like greenish is pretty light air, like 5 knots of breeze, 10 knots of breeze. Yellow's getting into the mid, like 15 knots of breeze, and then red is getting into the 20s. So you can see kind of between SF and SD all the way down to San Diego. This is looking at 11 o'clock tomorrow night forecast. So, you know, how many hours? Like 13 hours after they start. It's pretty light, a lot of green down there. And as you get it down into San Diego, it gets a little even more blue. So fighting your way back in the coast on into San Diego is always a trick. This is what it looks like when we put an expedition, a routing software that looks at the boat speed parameters. All right, here we go. So that's the routing. So it's interesting, you know, if you look at this, you can see that there's more wind up on the upper left-hand corner. This is just a snapshot in time. That wind kind of finds its way down, pretty light air in near San Francisco. So it's going to be kind of a question for these guys of how many miles they sail to go get that heavy wind. This is what the router says is for them to go like this far, which is probably, I guess, 75 miles offshore, something like that, to catch that breeze. And you can see by those green arrows, which say the wind is coming from the northwest at 14, 15 knots. It's actually a pretty decent breeze in that area. But as they work their way down the course, it kind of brings them in to the islands, down to their weather mark down there, their rounding mark down at the bottom, down by San Diego, that yellow dot. And then it gets really dicey, light air. So I estimated they're going to be about 36 hours, and according to the Mod 70 guys this morning, That's pretty much what they're looking at, 36 hours. So kind of a slow route for them. I don't think you're going to be seeing any 30 knots, but we'll see. So that's the California 500. We're going to kind of move on to what I've been calling the coastal route, which is I think a lot more fun because it takes us to some of the best yacht clubs on the West Coast. I mean, from Encinal to St. Francis to Monterey Peninsula Yacht Club to Santa Barbara Yacht Club to San Diego Yacht Club. I love the progression. It's a lot of fun. And each one of these races is individually scored, and there's prizes for each of the individual races. So there's prize-giving ceremonies all on the way. So it's great fun, and then there's always a great party, and they combine it with different things. Like down in Santa Barbara, there's the Wet Wednesday races they do down there. And if they get sometimes 100 boats out there for that thing, sometimes they'll do kind of an inshore race for the California Offshore Race Week. So just a great time. Spinnaker Cup, we'll start with that. It's an 87-mile jaunt from here out kind of just around Land's End and then down directly south down to Monterey Bay. 87 miles. It's been on for 25 years, Spinnaker Cup. So it's got a lot of history. We'll talk a little bit about kind of the past before we look at what it looks like for this year. This is the start. Last year it started right off of Golden Gate Yacht Club, so pretty much looked like this. From last year would look like that pretty much as they went by here too. There you have, these are the fastest boats in the fleet. Fast Exit, which is a Curve 51, very big fast boat. You got the Santa Cruz 70, the next boat down there, the blue one. And then you'll see in the back, the very last one on the outside is Artemis, which is a boat in 62. And then you have my little boat, our little boat, the Rogers 46 Lucky Duck there, 47 feet, 46 feet, kind of getting buried by the big guys. But it turned out okay, we got out of the bay okay, but right there it looks like we're just gonna get killed. The smallest boat in the fleet that did the entire race is this boat right here. It's Alex Samanis' Pell Mell. It's a Point Bonita 27, which I think they only built one of them, I think. It's a one-off boat. It's very similar to a Dog Patch 26, apparently, which is, that boat is in the race this year. This guy didn't come back, but that's the smallest boat. And I'll get into the story a little bit more, but I wouldn't want to go all the way down the coast in a 27-foot boat. But these guys did it, so hats off to them. This is the year before, Spinnaker Cup last year, we actually beat most of the way to Monterey in light air. And even on my Rogers 46, they didn't get in until after dark. It was a long day, but this is what it looked like the year before with no sound. But this is cruising along on the Rogers 46.
How fast are you going in this picture, Dave?
Maybe 15, maybe like that.
19.
Can you read the numbers? It says 19.
Yeah.
It looks like
18, 19 knots. I mean, it's blowing, kind of low 20s, I would guess. It's there's some of the mod 70s out there again. So it's pretty chill. I mean, we're just kind of cruising along at these kind of wind speeds. So we get to Monterey last year. So they, like I said, they do an award ceremony. So these are Bob and Rebecca Hinden, who probably many of you know, who own the Schumacher 46 Surprise. They went on actually to win their division in Pack Cup last year as well. They won their division in PHRFD. Rebecca will be doing the race in her own boat, the Express 27 Bombora. Pell Mell actually won essentially the overall Spinnaker Cup with the fastest overall corrected time. So for this year, this race starts on Saturday. So again, anybody who can be down here in the morning, it'd be super fun to watch. Not only 10 o'clock, watch the Mod 70s go off, then the Spinnaker Cup boats go off, and then the Master Mariners is starting right off our deck here too. So it's going to be a really exciting day. Come spend a lot of money at the club, right, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's 37 entries in the Spinnaker Cup this year. Pretty solid year. Had more, but 37 is a pretty good number. The size has nothing to do with the length of the boat or anything else. I just kind of like the way it displayed displayed names up there. Some of them are up there multiple times. I think, Aaron, you're up there, right?
Yeah, and really small type.
Well, yeah, sorry. One of the bigger boats, but it's small. Yeah, yeah. Well, I see you once. You got to be up there at least twice, right? You're up there. Aaron's got a Santa Cruz 50 city lights. Sails extremely well. This is what it looks like to get down the coast. Noon Saturday, a little bit after our start. It does not look good. Blue is slow and take forever. And we're hoping this improves a little bit. But this is about what it looks like noon on Saturday, just about as we're exiting the Golden Gate. It does improve a little bit as we move forward here. There's 6 o'clock Saturday night, so down to Monterey. So at least it got a little yellow on there. But you can see some of the blue wind holes that are around in along the coast, and you can kind of get that feel like some places you want to go into the coast, some places you don't. You can also see as those wind barbs turn as you approach the coast down towards Santa Cruz down there. That's where you try to ride those headers down there into the bay.
Dave, identify the wind code color.
The wind code is blue is less than 5 knots, greenish is like 10 knots, yellow is 15, and red and getting 20, 25. We're gonna see some reds here in a few minutes. So this is Spinnaker Cup. This is what the routing looks like for my boat and Jenny's boat, the J90. Looks like 10.5 hours to get down there using expedition routing, so not too bad. Even given these light air conditions that we're likely to see, it's better than it was last year, which it took us forever. Like I said, even on the Rogers. I don't know, Brendan. I think Brendan's coming with me this year. I think if we're not going to be drifting around out there at 3 in the morning, we're putting the gas on. I'm not that committed to finishing it. But hopefully we get in. But some boats will be drifting out there till morning sometimes. We don't want that to be us. So that was the Spinnaker Cup. The Coastal Cup starts a few days later. We'll get into kind of what the forecast looks like, but a little bit about last year's Coastal Cup. Conditions were quite a bit different last year than it looks like it's going to be this year. If you look at all that red, I'm sorry, it's a little bit hard to make out this slide. But essentially, that's the route along the course on the left-hand side where the line is with the numbers on it. And then now the wind, now we're looking at 35 knots of breeze there. This is forecast before the start. And then essentially the coast is right about where the red and the green meet. So pretty nasty. And you can see the forecast, the routing forecast showed us with 30 knots of breeze on that routing forecast on the right-hand side. The red line is the routing that it gave us back a year ago when I ran those. So that was the forecast. So everybody went out fully prepared for nuking conditions to go down some of the gnarliest part of the entire California West Coast, which is off a big cirque, right? From Monterey down to Santa Barbara is the Coastal Cup. So some really crazy conditions. So this is it. This is a video. This one sounds really good sound, so I'm sorry you can't hear it. Maybe
You keep looking for a pen.
I do. What maybe I can do is pull this cord out, and then maybe you have a working microphone?
Right there. Use the one you're
Just use this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if this is gonna work.
Perfect.
Something's working.
I don't know what that is.
That's the other video that you started earlier.
Yeah, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. All right, well, at least we're gonna maybe get some sound for the most important video, which is the Lucky Duck video.
Of course.
Let's see. Hang on a second. All right, here we go. All right, from the current slide. There we go. All right, I think there's hope for us here. So take this out. All right, here we go. So this is us in the Coastal Cup, 30-some knots of breeze. It's blowing low 30s, and we're hitting boat speeds in the 20-knot, mid to high 20 boat speed. I don't know if we ever saw 30, but it was close. Hear that? Everybody you can't see is in the back of the boat.
Way aft.
Yeah, weight is all the way aft. I mean, even offshore, we'll put all the sails and stuff in the back of the boat sometimes. But all the people are back there, and this is full on. We are absolutely crushing it. We can still see the Santa Cruz 52 Pied Piper out in front of us. They weren't that far in front of us, and we were losing the J125 behind us. So we're like feeling pretty good, right until we weren't. Yeah, that's kind of what happened. Not exactly our proudest moment of losing the rig out there, but unfortunately nobody got hurt. We had the whole thing cut away in about 20 minutes, and we were on our way back. And so it wasn't great. We did it with a kind of got in to San Simeon using our storm jib on its side connected to what's left of our stump of our mast. And we're going about 5.9 knots. We had the motor running, but we didn't have a lot of fuel. We had enough fuel to kind of meet the requirements of the race. But it didn't really give us a lot of fuel for motoring too far. So we went into San Simeon and spent the night in there. So, yeah, so it's a sad story for the Lucky Ducks rig. But things are improving. This is a picture from 2 nights ago from the club's webcam looking out at the Golden Gate Bridge. You can see underneath it right there, and there's some lights under there. And that's a freighter coming from New Zealand carrying our new mast. Been waiting for that for a long time to come, and now it's over at KKMI, and the boat will be all put back together. But unfortunately, we won't make Transpac this year. Never would have thought it'd take basically a full year to get a new rig, but it did. This is Coastal Cup Awards. We weren't there. We were back in Monterey by then. But that's Bill Guilfoyle, the staff commodore at Santa Barbara Yacht Club, who's combining all these races. Really was his brainchild in the first place, with Brent Draney, who is now the Commodore at Encinal Yacht Club there, and also a really active racer on the J105 Blackhawk. So those guys are still involved, and this was the Coastal Cup Awards. The Edward Milano Trophy was, and first in ORD, was won by our friends Rodney Pimentel on the California Azure, who's very active on the bay here too, so it was cool to see them win. A lot of kind of local guys in that picture there you guys may recognize. And the overall winner of the Coastal Cup was Jack Jennings on the Santa Cruz 70 Pied Piper, who was out there helping us actually as we were trying to contact the Coast Guard when our VHF radio was underwater. So, yeah. So they're really cool. So we were happy to have them win that. So this year, the California Coastal Cup starts down in Monterey on Monday. So this coming Monday, May 29th. It's 191 miles down to Santa Barbara. See what we have 12 entries for that. Again, some repeats in here. City Lights, are you going on? No?
Yeah, unfortunately not.
Okay. Catapult is that Santa Cruz 70 that's out there. Westerly, another Santa Cruz 70. Really great participation from the Santa Cruz 70. Buenos Aires from Santa Cruz will be there going the whole way. I think they're going the whole way. So some really great participation. Bombora, the Express 27. I forget if she's going the whole way or just down to Santa Barbara. From Santa Barbara to San Diego, we'll talk about that next. That is a big race. That is a big commitment. So is the Coastal Cup. So 12 entries. Unfortunately, the wind not looking that great for that either. A lot of blue means kind of light air. This is what it looks like Tuesday midnight, so some big 12 hours after they start, even right along that Big Sur coast. Not much breeze there. But this is just a snapshot in time. I think it generally improves some. Hang on a second, I think that slide. Yeah, so that's it. So I didn't do a routing because it's so far out. There's no point really routing, but they'll have a good time getting down to Santa Barbara. So moving on to the SoCal 300, the third of the last leg in the series, 243 miles. You start in Santa Barbara. You go between the islands there at Santa Cruz Island and what's the other one? Santa
Rosa.
Santa Rosa Island there.
By Skunk Point.
Skunk Point.
He knows them all.
That Skunk Point, average wind speed in the summertime is like 35 knots normally, not obviously this time.
And this race can be a real challenge because you think about kind of the Southern California light air sailing, a lot of that kind of happens inside of the islands. When you start getting outside the islands, you get into what Stan would call the synoptic breeze, the breeze that blows all night, and it's a different story, and it blows really hard out there sometimes. And we'll look at that. It's actually going to be a little bit like that this year. But here they are starting, and all these hot, awesome Southern California boats do this race. Some of them make it up our way, but a lot of them show up just in Southern California. This is Santa Barbara Yacht Club in the background there with beautiful hills behind it, and two really super fast, awesome boats. The Curve 51 Fast Exit and the TP52 Saga right off the yacht club. And just like our yacht club, you know, it starts right there, so it's cool. You can see the whole thing. So this is what it looked like in 2022 to kind of get down there through the islands and then around this weather buoy that's out there offshore, and then you have to get into San Diego. It was a pretty light air last year too, especially that last leg into approaching San Diego, which it can often be. So you see a lot of the boats kind of taking that southerly route, trying to find a little bit more breeze from the weather buoy into San Diego. Here's Pell Mell at San Diego Yacht Club. Again, the littlest boat. They made it all the way down there. It was pretty cool. They got down there in that little boat. And it turns out they won the entire thing against all these hot boats that did it, you know. Pell Mell, the littlest boat in the entire fleet, won it. So it's super cool. You can see how excited they are to win it. And too bad they're not coming back this year because we're hoping to see them kind of try to repeat it. So they won the entire thing. So this year it starts on June 1st. So it's like out a few days still. So the weather's a little bit, you know, uncertain. 27 entries in that race. We could still get some more entries in that. It's still open. So some names are recognized, but some new Southern California names on the list here as well too, including Oaxaca. Oaxaca is owned by a club member. Buzz Brackett on his Carbon Antrim 27 IO is in there. A couple of J125s. So this is what the weather looks like at this point, and it's pretty far out, so it's kind of dicey. You can see that blue on the inside, typical Southern California, no wind conditions, but pretty nuking on the outside, 25 knots kind of breeze on the outside. That's that synoptic breeze outside of the islands that they get. But the hard part is you do have to get in. You have to get back into San Diego eventually, and that's always the slog to get to the wind and then to get from the wind back to San Diego. And you can watch the entire race unfold on Yellow Brick, the Yellow Brick tracker. Every boat has a tracker, and so you can keep an eye on them free. So it's all available on your app. These are the overall winners in the past, and we had the good fortune of winning the overall California Offshore Race Week in 2018. And then you can see a little Pell Mell on there. Zachary Anderson won on a Velvet Hammer from, I think he was a Richmond Yacht Club member at the time, 2019. So some good Northern California participation up there. And that's it. That's the story of the California Offshore Race Week. So excited to be doing it.
Good show. Wonderful. So Dave, great story. So how many of the races, the 3 legs, are you going to compete in this year? And in which boats of your 2 racing boats?
Well, normally we do the entire thing on the Rogers 46, but since we don't have a mast yet, we won't be able to do that. So we have a smaller boat, a 30-foot J90 it's called, which is a pretty fast little boat. It races PHRF 48. So for a 30-footer, that's pretty fast. But it will get up on a plane and go. It kind of feels a lot like a little Rogers 46, which makes it a super great training platform for young folks. So I have one guy who's a college kid coming with me this year, and then another guy who's just out of school. So those are two younger guys, but then a lot of experienced crew with that too. So Jeff Thorpe and Brendan, Austin Book, some actual some pros on board. So we'll do it on the Rogers 46 or on the J90.
So now I'm going to keep asking questions, but if you have a question, put your hand up and our commenter will bring over the microphone to you. And secondly, if you're watching on YouTube, use the chat window to ask a question and we'll ask that question here. Yes?
Dave, were you able to determine what actually happened when you lost the mast? Not to bring up a sore subject, I'm sorry, but just want to learn if we can.
What broke, Dave?
Yeah, what broke on the Rogers when we lost the rig last year?
Was it the backstay?
Well, we didn't sit around doing an autopsy. It was still blowing, even after the rig fell down, it was still blowing mid 30 knots with about 14-foot seas, something like that. And as we were kind of sitting there broadside, I looked out on the weather side, and we were kind of drifting down, and you could see the spinnaker kind of drifting underneath the boat. And I was really concerned that it was going to get tangled on the keel or on the sail drive down there. So we wouldn't be able to really motor if we cut the rig loose and the whole thing was hanging off the bulb. It would be a real problem. So we went to work really quickly cutting the rig away to try to limit the risk of that happening as much as possible. But from what it looks like, the boat has a square top mainsail. And if you have a big square top mainsail, you can't have a fixed backstay because you can't tack the sail can't go inside that backstay. So you have running backstay. So a lot of these boats have runners basically, and that holds the mast up. It's really just a portable, backstay if you put on one or the other. So I think that broke. That would be the appearance of it, because the rig just kind of went. We heard a big noise up high, and the rig just kind of went straight downwind, kind of following the pressure of the kite.
So the starboard or weather back's running back?
Yeah, the weather starboard running back apparently partied, which unfortunately they were actually brand new. So, whether it was a fitting, whether it was a flaw in the material itself, or whatever, I don't know. But the reality is, if you're going to push a boat that hard, you're going to find those flaws. And, in retrospect, we were actually in the process of peeling to a smaller kite and putting a reef in. That was what we were doing. We had people coming up on deck to do that. So had we started 5 minutes earlier, we hopefully would have won the race. But we didn't, and so we should have reduced sail earlier. That's all there is to it. But there's a fine line. How do you know? And we had a ton of pros on board, and we weren't wiping out at all. You could see from that video, we were in total control of the boat. So it wasn't like we wiped out and broke something. It just fell over. So, yeah.
Follow-up question on that. Anything, I've never been in a situation where
Mike?
Sorry.
I've never been in a situation where we've dropped a mast, luckily. But, we've all envisioned, and we buy the bolt cutters, and we have the grinders, and we have the tools that we think are going to help us in that situation. Any lessons that you'd like to impart for post-event that might be helpful for everyone?
Yeah, so the question is what would you do to prepare for another kind of event like that? And it is a requirement for all the offshore sailors that they carry a way of getting their rig off the boat if it falls down. Bolt cutters, hacksaw, grinder, whatever. And I had a long discussion with my rigger John Hansen, who said, just carry hacksaws, that's all you need. And we talked about maybe using like a portable electric grinder, but then you got to keep it charged, and it sits in your bilge for 3 years, and you come back, it's a rusted mess, you know. So that's not really a great solution. Bolt cutters could do the job, but cutting a big chunk of rod could be pretty hard too. So John said, hey, we use hacksaws to cut this stuff all the time, so just use a hacksaw. And so we had 9 people on board, I think, and we had 2 hacksaws and extra blades, and we had the thing off in 20 minutes or so, and a lot of knives too. It's unbelievable how many things are still connected to the boat even after the rigging is gone. There's all the halyards and everything, you know, that's still there. So you had to cut all that away too. So I have one little piece of my mainsail left. That's it. Everything else just went over the side of the boat, but it got cut away. So now I think 10 or 9 motivated guys with hacksaws could take care of it pretty fast.
John, you have a question?
Yes, over here. What were the signals that you saw that would cause you to say that you should have reduced sail sooner?
Well, I guess the signal that we lost the mast, that was the biggest signal. But, you know, at that kind of wind speed, we were, it was daytime still. We had everybody up, so we were comfortable kind of pushing the edge for a while. But then it kind of filled in a little more and filled in a little more. Over time, the waves started building too. So part of the pressure, part of the reason I think the rig came down wasn't just the wind. It was also that you saw how much water we were taking on board. And when you stuff the bow into a wave, it kind of loads the boat up. The boat kind of slows down and puts pressure on the rig. So the waves were getting a little bigger, you know, and so it was just kind of time, you know, probably should have done it a little earlier. But yeah, it was really just that.
So give us the specs on the 2 boats. Let's look at the J90 first. Give people the specs on that, and then the Rogers.
The J90, 30 feet long, draws 6.5 feet of water for a 30-foot boat and weighs 3,400 pounds. So it's kind of like a skiff, you know. I mean, the J120 is a 40-foot long boat, and we rate about even with the J120. So it has of the 3,400 pounds, about half the weight is in that bulb 6.5 feet below the water.
What crew size do you sail the boat with on a coastal cup?
We're going to, on Saturday, we're going to take 7 with us. Lighter, I'd normally sail with 5. Mm-hmm. But often the spinnaker cup is, you got to beat out the bay and you reach for a while before you even get a spinnaker up. So it's nice to have extra crew on board for the weight for that. So that's that boat. The Rogers is 46 feet long on deck. It has an 8-foot sprit on it, so the spinnaker is attached out on the end of the sprit, so it kind of effectively sails as if it's a 54-foot boat. And it weighs 10,500 pounds, something in that range, so it's also very light. There's another one of the Mod 70s, Orion out there.
Right. That's the boat that I raced, went 37 knots in that thing. And talk about a smooth ride, because you're up, you know, you're up on the flying a hull. It's like amazingly steady speed.
Yeah. So both the boats, the Rogers and the J90, you sail them very much the same, just like you saw in the video. You kind of rock them up, get a lot of pressure. You're kind of reaching downwind a little bit rather than just kind of squaring the pole back and going down like you do in a pole boat. But they're planing boats, so the idea is you get it up on a plane, very flat surfaces underneath there, very light bow areas, and kind of flat planing surfaces in the back of the boat.
What's the condition you're hunting for? What's your wind range that you guys like?
For the Rogers 46, well, both of them kind of like 16 knots is just starts to get fun there. 20 knots, low 20s is great fun with waves. Mm-hmm. So you get some waves going, low 20s, even mid 20s is no problem. You just get up on that plane, the boat just flies along. It's so much fun.
Mm-hmm. And so on the 90, what's your best condition in the 90 compared to the competitors?
It's planing conditions.
Breeze,
it's hard to
breeze.
rate boats with a planing condition, so both of them kind of like that 16 to 18 knot. I mean, the little boat, the J90 will plane, you know, a little lower wind speeds, 14s kind of thing, but around that 20 knot wind speed. I mean, for me, I always sail with guys like Pete, Brendan, some others in this room who sail with me really good cruise. So we like it when it's windy to get the boats up on the step, get up on the plane, and also just kind of separate the skill level on the boat. When it gets windier, we get happier. We like to go fast. We're Northern California boats. We're all used to sailing in a lot of breeze. You go down to Southern California, they start, reefing sometimes in 15 knots of breeze, or, get concerned about carrying the spinnaker overnight or something. We're like, let it rip.
So which competitors in each series do you fear? Who are the guys you gotta look out for?
Well, I like it when we have the similar boats out there. So there's two other Rogers 46 on the West Coast. One of them came up and raced with us in Big Boat a couple years back, called Brett Waldo, which is now called Groundhog Day. So we like that. I like that. We like they picked that name.
Is it still green?
It's black.
It's not green anymore.
Not green. Groundhog Day. Since we're Lucky Duck, which is not like that aggressive, boat name, we got a nice friendly, and we like the name the Groundhog Day.
Okay, so they're good competitors.
Yeah, there are. There's another one down there, Carbon Footprint, and we haven't really raced against them yet, but we will, I'm sure, at some point. The J125s are kind of similar. They're really tough. The J125 is a very good boat. The J90 that we have is actually just a small 125, so exactly the same proportions. It's just a smaller version of a 125. And what was out there?
Bo, you're seeing some action out in the windows there?
Yes,
It's tagged, they're right there.
Perfect.
Perfect. So, yeah, we like the 125s a lot. And they're a weapon offshore. When they're just so small. The J125 is a 40-foot boat that, yeah, look, there's a close-up of the Mod 70. Thanks for the flyby, guys. I think the J125 is just too small for me. Yeah, it's amazing, right? And look how fast they're going, just kind of.
And I'm gonna see the breeze out there. Brendan, what do you think? It's like no more than 10. It's like 8, 10-ish, 11-ish. And they're flying the middle hole now. They're flying the 2 holes. You're flying 2 holes. In Valencia and the America's Cup, the big BOR 90, they could fly 2 holes, literally, in 6 knots of breeze. The boat was unbelievably fast. These things are amazingly stable until they get really, really fast when you can't turn them either way. Turn down too fast, turn up too fast, bad news.
Yeah, it's one of our concerns about on Saturday morning, starting them here. It's going to be 10 in the morning, so usually not that much breeze. But like you say, you turn down, and all of a sudden that boat is going 30 knots. And so we need to keep the whole fleet, down by Golden Gate Yacht Club so nobody gets run into.
So talk about the rig. How tall was the rig? And give us the dimensions of the rig. It's a carbon rig.
Yeah, carbon rig. So a question about the Rogers 46 about the rig we lost. And it's about 60 feet long for a 46-foot boat. So it's a big rig, really offset, just like the smaller boat, by having half the weight of the boat, 9.5 feet below the water in the bulb. So you can put a lot of sail area up on a fairly small boat. I don't know what it weighed, the existing one, maybe 800 pounds. It was designed with the boat back 2007 or so, somewhere in that vintage. And the new rig is going to be the rig itself will be about 150 pounds lighter than the old one. And 150 pounds out of the sky is a big difference. Essentially, that could be multiplied by 10 for how much you would take off the bulb. So theoretically, we could take 1,000 pounds off the keel and have the same riding moment by getting that weight out of the rig. So it's going to be a cool improvement with the new rig. We're also putting on carbon fiber rigging, EC6 rigging on it. So the part of the weight savings is in that going from steel rod to carbon fiber rigging.
In the race footage you showed, you guys had pretty mild seas. Every now and then you'd bury it a little bit. And I know you get all the way aft to keep the bow out of the water as much as possible. But talk to the audience about the difference between racing the Transpac, where you get these longer waves, and racing in the Coastal Cup, where you get breeze, but not as big a waves.
Yeah, and as you all know, like videos or pictures, never the the waves never look as big as they actually are in the videos. So the waves were actually pretty big in that picture, but it is
6, 8 feet, what are you gonna say?
they were probably bigger. They were over 10. They were over 10 foot. Not all of them, but the occasional wave would roll through at 10 foot plus, maybe even 14 foot for some of them. They were pretty big. And kind of what you're describing is exactly the situation. When you get out in the ocean, like on a Transpac, which I've done 4 Transpacs, coupled with those guys back there. The waves are the long, rolly kind of waves that build up over a long period of time out there in the Pacific High. And they're awesome. You just kind of ride down them and you get to the bottom and then you just kind of line up for the next one. But on the California coast, it's a whole different situation. It's kind of gale force, short, choppy waves like these. They're not organized, they come from different directions, and they're one's different. They're all a little different, and that's why they're so short together. They kind of a short period between them that you end up burying the bow in the one in front. And like we were talking earlier, it loads up the rig, it loads up the boat when that happens, or just kind of like a bunch of water up on the deck. So it makes it a lot more wet and challenging and cold.
What's the crew size on the 46? What do you like for an ocean race in the 46?
Transpac will normally do with 8. We're gonna do Pac Cup next year. We might do it with 9. With 8, we just have kind of 2 on, 2 off. If we take a dedicated navigator, we'll probably go with 9.
And what's the watch system? You get 2 on, 2 off, but you'll be overlapping?
We'll do, what we do is, what I used to do is 4-hour watches. Everybody up at 4 hours, everybody down. Everybody kind of rotating every 4 hours. But it's pretty disruptive, and on a kind of a tight boat on the inside like the Rogers 46, everybody still does 4-hour long watches and is off for 4, but 2 new people come up every 2 hours instead. And you could put 1 new person up every hour, but we do 2 every 2 hours. And that's been I think that's worked really well.
And how do you rotate through the positions when they come on watch?
Well, essentially there's 3 active jobs offshore. Either you're driving, you're trimming, or you're grinding, or you're off, basically. So essentially there's 4 people, 3 active positions. So what we like to do is you don't drive right away. You come up, you grind or you trim, and then by your last hour you're starting to get pretty tired. So you don't really want to drive the last hour either. So it's best you're driving either the 2nd hour or the 3rd hour out of the 4. And we have everybody drive on our cruise. Some crews don't operate that way, but I always pick people that can drive so we can spread the driving around. So that's why we do it. You kind of rotate through the position. So you come up, normally do one of the other positions, and then you can, if you play it right, your last hour you can just be kind of chilling out.
So now, how many races will you race this year or next year? A typical year, what's a full campaign?
A full campaign for the offshore boat would be, we do some local WYL stuff here, just kind of get the season underway. We'll go down and do the Islands race, which is starts in Long Beach and goes around to San Diego, which is a really great kind of warm up for the season. It's a little bit like the start of a Transpac, because that's where the Transpac starts, right there in Long Beach, and you go around the top end of Catalina. And then we'll bring the boat back up to Southern California and race to Mexico. Either do the Puerto Vallarta race or Cabo race. They alternate. So we'll do one of those, bring the boat all the way back up to Northern California, do the California Offshore Race Week, and then, if we still have a mast, then we would do the Transpac. That would be normal. So this year's going to be a little different with the Rogers. It's going to take, we have our mast back. It'll take about a month to get that boat back in operation. We're going to we'll do some local stuff, OYRA stuff. Maybe all do a Lesso, and then send the boat south. And we're going to do Long Point Race Week down there, and which is a cool race down at Catalina with a lot of these same boats that are racing in this series. And then bring it back up and do big boat.
So I also want to introduce our rear commoner, Adam Campbell's here today, active yacht racer as well. And the last question is, our Commodore Bo Vrolik has a beautiful schooner Mayan, and he serves really great cocktails on it. Can you compete in that game?
Okay, not even close.
And with that, thank you so much, Dave. Great Wednesday Yachting Luncheon. Thanks, guys.
This has been a presentation of the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon.